Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Kaostv's live coverage of the EUS Challenger Series number 4. I'm Metis and I'm joined by Dignitas Stress, and we are live now into game number 2 between Heimerdingers Collosi and Benched Gaming. If you have just joined us, the first game started fairly evenly, first blood actually going to Benched Gaming, but after that was pretty one-sided for Heimerdingers Collosi, who've taken the 1-0. But yeah, we are into the picks and bans right now. Stress, how are you feeling? And pretty standard bans already, Zed and Rumble.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good going into this game, if I'm honest. Nice to see a new team. Well, I say new, it's pretty much 3/5 of Dragonborns, and then Freeze and Mithy as well. So, you know, it's nice to see something refreshing. Champions that perhaps we don't see all that much anymore. Draven did have his place in LCS just a little bit, but nice to see some fresh new ways of playing and very, very aggressive ways of playing as well coming out from Heimerdingers Colossi. Very similar bans this game. The only change so far is that Draven ban now, so you can see Zed, Rumble, Zach, Sejuani and Draven are the bans out.
Wow, I am a long way behind you on the stream. I may have to refresh this. Basically, if you don't know, guys, we are able to join the spectator slot in the League of Legends client. So we're watching the stream alongside you guys, which is why we may be talking about things that are already kind of happened for you. So I'm going to quickly refresh this one, Stress, because I think I'm literally 20 seconds behind you at this point. So 1 sec for me.
Yeah, fair enough. We haven't had any picks coming up so far, but Shen is the last ban out in this game, and I wanted to talk just a little bit about the last game and exactly how it played out. I still have my reservations about playing that 2v2 lane in that bottom lane. Ezreal's just kind of a little bit squishy when played up against a champion like Draven, and especially if you're forced into engagements, it's not really what you want that early on in the game, so it put him so far behind that he couldn't really get to that point where he had that Iceborne Gauntlet and able to kite in the mid game, so kind of just spiraled out of their control from there, especially when they had the last pick and it was their top laner. They could have could have played the advantageous 2v1 lane, so not exactly sure why Bench didn't use that to their advantage, but nevertheless in this game we do see the first pick out is going to be a Thresh. And we've got to hover over on on Jarvan by Yamato Cannon. They do lock in Jarvan and Elise, so two very scary and, again, very aggressive picks coming out from Heimerdingers Colossi.
Yeah, very good point. Jarvan last game was extremely strong. You know, Meluno was ganking top lane, bot lane, mid. He didn't seem to care. Managed to get a couple of nice drakes as well. So definitely one to watch out for in this game. Just to hint back towards the Draven as well. When you have a Draven Alistar, that is a terrifying lane to play against. Whenever I play Draven in solo queue, if I'm against an Ezreal, I'm licking my lips because there's very little that Ezreal can do back towards you to really counteract any of that massive burst potential that you have. So on the other team, for Benched, you already have the Thresh lock-in, as was mentioned earlier, and they are hovering over the next two picks. Question for me, are they going to go for Ezreal again, or are they going to try something like a Varus Misfortune with the Thresh? Because Varus or Misfortune, when you get to level 6 alongside the Thresh box, very, very strong lanes.
Yeah, we're going for hooks by the looks of this game. We've got the Thresh, now we got the Nautilus, and now this Jace says to me they're anticipating the 2v1, so they want to play the safe lane. Jace is very good at farming in a 2v1 lane because he just stays in cannon form and pretty much plays AD carry with, AD caster kind of way of playing outside of the laning phase. So Jace is a very safe pick up here, and you can see with that Caitlyn pick, and it has been locked in, that's a champion that loves to 2v1 because Caitlyn pushes the lane so very quickly, and would not be surprised to see a Lulu picked up alongside Caitlyn here.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Caitlyn is king of 1v2 lane. She has great range. She can constantly spam and harass with the Piltover Peacemaker. And obviously Ace in the Hole as well can just keep using that whenever it's up. So definitely one to watch for. Maybe just counteracting the Jace pick, like you said. When you see Jace picked, you kind of assume the switch is coming around. So picking the Caitlyn puts Jace back in his, back in his position and basically says, no, you're not going to have an easy 1v2 lane here. I'm Caitlyn. I'm going to constantly just basically be a massive nightmare for you. So down to the last two picks for Bench Gaming here. I'm obviously behind you, Stress. Has anything been locked in just yet?
No, we've not got any lock-ins yet. We've got a hover over a Tryndamere, but interestingly enough, over on Heimerdingers Colossi, with Elise, Jarvan, and Malphite in the game, this could possibly be a support Elise. I mean, you'd expect to see Jarvan coming out of that jungle with either Elise or Malphite in that top lane. I guess they could play some kind of AP Malphite or even mid lane Elise, but maybe support Elise. We'll see exactly who's going where. Ari has been locked in alongside Varus, so Varus Thresh is quite a strong lane here for Benched Gaming, and we'll see exactly what we keep wanting to call them Dragonborns because of the DB in their name. What Heimerdingers Colossi do respond with, and now if they lock in a Vega, that there's a couple of champions that have been played as support recently, and they do swap off it. So likely they're just having us talk about some things that don't really matter right now. But a lot of champions, like people have played like Vega support, so they have swapped off it considerably now. Looking at maybe a Kassadin. We'll see exactly where they go on, but they're just hovering through their champions right now for what looks to be their mid lane.
We have seen some exquisite Aries thus far in the tournament, of course, with Cook My Sock. So Benched are going to lock that one in. The Varus Thresh lane, kind of what I was expecting. I thought it'd either be Varus or Misfortune, because they're very, very strong combinations. So they are locking back on towards this Kassadin, hovering I should say, towards Kassadin with 3 seconds to go. So Kassadin against Ari in mid lane does pretty decent. Of course, that's two very roam-centric mid laners as well. Kassadin with his Rift Walk is great at ganking lanes, and Ari with his Spirit Rush is likewise great at ganking lanes. So there could be a lot of action here, Stress, and watching these two compositions, going to be a good game for sure.
Yeah, and it does look like we're going to get that Elise support, so very aggressive. Like, I'm saying that word so much about Heimerdingers Colossi, but every single pick they've ever made in this best of 3 has been full aggression. There's been no defensive champions whatsoever. Malphite, aggression. Elise, just even as a support, wants to get right in there with that repel. So, I mean, Caitlyn's probably the most defensive, but that's only because she's got insane range. If she chooses to engage or chooses to push, she's very good at that too. So I'm just amazed at how confident Heimerdingers Colossi are with their aggressive playstyle. Just want to shut down bench before they can even get going. It's going to be a little bit of a tricky one there. As we said, that Jace should deal with the 2v1 fairly well, but that Elise does throw a spanner into the works, really.
So you're very confident then, you think it's going to be a 1v2 lane then in this case with the Jace pickup?
I kind of... well, I'm going out on a limb. I thought they were going to 2v1 last game on red side, but I don't know. Both of these teams have gone for AD carries that have great push potential, so I would expect to see the 2v1. We've seen it happen so much recently that really, if you're on red side and you're not 2v1ing, you are somewhat throwing away a small lead in that laning phase, where you can obviously take the double golems up in the top lane. Again, it just depends on how they feel confidence-wise going into this one. And we are just in the delay period now, guys, so we're going to go for a very quick break as we head towards game number 2 here for the EUS Challenger Series. Remember to tweet us, let us know your thoughts, let us know your predictions as well. We'll be back in just a few minutes with the EUS Challenger Series number 4.
Hold me close till we
Hello ladies and gents, welcome back here to Kaostv's live coverage of the US Challenger Series number 4. We are live into game number 2. Well, I say live, I'm on the loading screen still, so fingers crossed this is going to jump into live soon. Game number 1 did go the way of Heimerdingers Collosi. Very one-sided game after about the 5-minute mark. I met this joint by Dignitas Stress. And interestingly enough, you were talking about the complete aggression from both teams. Both supports picking up Ignite here.
Yeah, something that we're seeing more and more when an AD carries taking the defensive summoner spell like Barrier. And it really just lets you pick up those early kills in lane and kind of gives you an advantage in the lane if you can manage to catch onto them. Also in the 2v1 lane, it pretty much makes it, when you go aggressive on that, you are able to take down for the kill. We are headed now into game number 2. I've just about loaded in, and we're about to get things underway. I am loaded in, and 2 flask buys out, which is something that's fairly interesting already out of the lineup for Heimerdingers Collosi.
Yeah, a flask on Malphite, so maybe preempting the 2v1 lanes as you're talking about before. Caitlyn is walking towards top lane here from Heimerdingers Collosi. Freeze, of course. So very well could be the case. And the flask alongside the pots as well is just going to keep Malphite in lane a bit longer. He wants to soak up as much XP as possible. We do have Bench Gaming running through a ward here into Heimerdingers Colossi's jungle. And this could get quite scary, actually, because they've popped down a pink ward. They know they've been seen now. And you are going to have Heimerdingers Colossi starting to congregate around the river themselves. So are they going to try and catch them out? No, they're not. See... Once again, Bench Gaming walking through the same ward as before, and it looks like nothing too serious is going to kick off here. Pretty much an exact copy of what happened last time around, Stress, where the pink ward went down, they cleared the pink ward, and then basically took their buffs.
Yeah, it's one of those things you walk all the way over to their blue buff, put down the pink ward, they had it warded. And they know exactly where we are. Well, better go back. Hope they're not 5 of them standing in the bush we just walked through. So, you know, that's a little disheartening for Bench. They would have liked to have seen nothing on that pink ward. But unfortunately, Heimerdingers Colossi just too good in the early game right now for Benched Gaming to trick them with an invade onto blue. We are seeing that 2v1 lane, so we're getting what I expected, which pretty much is fairly standard for every game now, if I'm honest. You can see Mithy and Freeze are going to drift up towards that top lane. Mithy helping out Maluno here in the jungle, just to clear through his red buff that a little bit faster, give him the smiteless red. We'll see whether he goes over to invade on the blue or whether heads to his own. It does look like he's more likely to head down towards his own, as his timers aren't quite right, but interestingly enough, as we see Mithy just, I think, miss that brush ward. Yeah, not quite in the bush. The duo bot lane has been sent top for Bench Gaming, so they anticipate this 2v1 lane, which means that that's something a little bit interesting here. Benched reacting to that 2v1 very nicely.
Mind games and chess-like maneuvers once again. So we are going to have Jace against Malphite at bot lane. Varus and Thresh facing off against Elise and Caitlyn. Death Sentence has landed. Lots of damage going on to Mithy. He's forced to flash away already. Wow, that was just extreme aggression. And now Mithy without flash is not going to be anywhere near the same amount of threat. Plus the fact he has such a minuscule amount of health remaining. 140 chucking through health pots. So the very early signs of the Bench Gaming have came out to play this time around.
Yeah, and they only really used the Ignite there, whereas the flash for Mithy is going to take a little bit longer to cool down, and that means that next time DirtGen is able to hit a death sentence onto Mithy, it pretty much is going to spell the end. There's a little bit of action in the mid lane there. You can see Bimbo just using that Orb of Deception to farm and push through the wave as quickly as possible, trying to force Extinct to CS under the tower, because Kassadin in the early levels has a little bit of trouble farming under the tower, so trying to just chase him off as much as possible. Lands a charm as well. There has been the damage onto Bimbo was enough to activate that sound, which tells us that somebody somewhere on the map is low, and it might happen again, because here goes in Gornagal into that top lane. Repel comes out, but there's not a lot to repel to. Is Nadius going to be able to pick up the kill? Does go into turret range. There's also, I believe, may have even stood on a trap there, and they do take down the first blood in favor of Bench Gaming.
And that was all engineered just from that first death sentence that landed from Thresh that popped the flash from Mithy. So from that moment on, they're calling, okay, Mithy's very low. He has no flash. Nautilus, come on up top whenever you're ready. We'll secure this kill. That's exactly what they did. Interesting enough, though, earlier on, while the action at top lane happened, you did have a double gank from both junglers in mid, where a lot of flashes were burnt. So Kassadin has no flash. Also, Jarvan has no flash, and neither does Nautilus. But Ahri still does. So she does have the slight maneuverability advantage in that sense up against Extinct. But again, lots of summoner spells popped throughout the map.
Yeah, and Bimbo just trying to land as many of those charms as possible. Wasn't quite able to catch on to that one, and Extinct puts more damage back in exchange. Both junglers are hanging around this mid lane. Dredge line doesn't quite land. Double buffs on Gornagel means he's going to be able to not only use those staggering blows, but apply the red proc as well. You can see it ticking onto Maluno. And that's enough to force them away from Bimbo. So, nice, I want to say counter gank, but he actually initiated it himself. Doesn't quite land the dredge line a second time, so all square here in this mid lane.
So we've had YOLOZilla going up against Yamato Cannon, which of course has been the same both games. They did a 1v1 at top. In fact, we are going to have a lot of aggression here as I switch down to bot lane. YOLOZilla popping the flash. The ignite, I should say. And actually Yamato Cannon popping the flash to get away just out of the danger from YOLOZilla. But the second time they've played 1v1, and this time around, Yamato Cannon is getting pretty badly beat upon. It's a 45-25 lane, as we do actually have a kill going at top lane. Apologies for that. Mithy goes down in a 1v2.
Yeah, Mithy does drop another one. That's 0-2 now for Elise, and Elise likes to at least get a little bit of gold, because obviously she builds a little bit different to most supports as the game goes on. Does start building damage, and if you can get a little bit of magic penetration on Elise as well, does so much damage. Death Sentence just grazes past Freeze's ear, not quite catching on to that, but Dirtchen looking to pressure Freeze off the lane as much as possible.
Yeah, very true. And with Elise dying, she is going to be running back towards the lane again. Died twice already, so only has the one pink ward to her name. Not a great deal of vision to be had. Having said that, they have been pushed back to the lane pretty much from the get-go. Jarvan comes across here. Maluno is going to be recalling. Meanwhile, at bot lane, you do have more action between the two top laners. Nautilus is coming around from the side. Gornagel is definitely painting that bullseye on the backside here of Yamato Cannon, who just came back. He's popped the flash, remember, from the last time around, but he's going to use the unstoppable force to get himself away, and that of course is very strong. Here comes, meanwhile, in mid lane, Bimbo forcing to push back. Extinct, very aggressive, has a 5 CS lead, nothing to write home about, but every time I go to mid lane, Extinct has a lot more health than Ahri does.
Yeah, and Extinct has hit that spot with Kassadin. You get to level 6, you get his ultimate. That Rift Walk is going to allow him to go across the map towards the bush, but meets a dredge line on the way in. Extinct trying to get away as quickly as possible. Does have Rift Walk available over the back of Dragon. Will we see anything tricky? Shock Blast is going to come out, and YOLOZilla picks himself up a kill.
Yeah, nice play there from YOLOZilla, who's having a blinding game thus far. 57 CS. And a kill to his name as well. Death Sentence comes out again. Dirtgen is just landing everything onto Mithy, who's dangerously low again. The Ignite is clicking down, uses the Repel right at the death. But will he be falling afterwards? Piercing Arrow comes in, forcing the flash away. Meanwhile, Caitlyn is going to be going on towards Nardius. The ultimate has been popped as well. Chain of Corruption from Varus. So back and forth between the two. And as a result of it, no one's gone down, but everyone's dangerously low. And here comes Nautilus from the side stress.
Yeah, and Mithy, you could see the chains of corruption slowly snaking their way towards Mithy, and it was about to lock, and you could see him frantically getting as far away from Freeze as possible. Wasn't quite able to lock, but with that flash burn to dodge that piercing arrow, that leaves him very vulnerable. Freeze gets death sentenced to Dirtgen. Not really wanting to go in on that. The barrier was used by Nardius as well, so not really able to follow up on that. They did have the box available, but again, diving under the tower with no flash wouldn't have been the smartest option.
Oh, Dirtgen so far I haven't seen him miss a death sentence. Every time I look at top lane, he's landing. Of course, as I say that, he misses one on Mithy. So again, curse of the commentator coming through, but he's putting so much basically just threat on towards Mithy. You can see Mithy's only level 5 right now because it's had to go back twice already due to a death, and that is just going to make the combo of Varus and Thresh that much stronger. Thresh is going to pull himself back towards the lane, allowing Varus to farm on up. How is the CS looking? You are going to have Caitlyn 62 and Varus 75 looking to push this tower aggressively. Not a great deal that Mythi and Freeze can do about this.
Yeah, and Dirtgen's done a great job of zoning Caitlyn out. Caitlyn has one of the highest ranges in the game for AD carry, so it's very difficult to shove her off a lane. Thresh is one of the champions that can do that, though, and especially when you're landing hooks onto the support and AD carry. There's a hook onto Freeze. The box comes out as well. Flash through the wall of the box. Freeze taking very low. Nadius looking for the kill, but here is Extinct. Goes in through the back of this fight, picks up the kill onto Nadius. Orb of Deception actually doesn't do that much damage, and Extinct is just going to walk away from this one. Rift walks back in. There's the ace in the hole. Takes Bimbo down to about 300 health left. Extinct maybe stalking around for another one, but doesn't have all that much mana. And remember, every time you use Rift Walk, it's going to cost additional mana. And every time it stacks, it's going to cost more and more to do it.
Yeah, that really nice gank though from Kassadin. He actually came up from Bench Gaming's blue buff and kind of Zac-esque in his ganking route here. He came through the wall onto the bush and then round the backside, and this is just as Thresh was popping his box. Caitlyn escaped on literally 15 HP, so Varus stayed around a couple of seconds longer. Like, the red mist descended, he wanted that kill regardless of the cost, and by staying around for a bit longer, it basically secured his own downfall. Ari popping the teleport as well to get in there, but at the end it was a 1-for-0 exchange with Caitlyn narrowly escaping death.
Yeah, Yamato Cannon's teleport is going to be off cooldown in the next couple of seconds. He did burn it very early on when he got pressured out of lane earlier by YoloZilla. There is, however, another engagement going on. Ari gets taken down in the middle lane by Maluno. I was a little bit distracted down by that bottom lane, but I hope you guys did catch that on the stream. Maluno and Extinct pick some more kills up between the two of them, and that makes the lead for Bench Gaming not all that much right now. It's only about 1,000 gold, and we saw Benched in this position in the last game. There's the Rift Walk over the wall. Gornagal is being caught out, but not really able to put down as much damage as they'd like to. We saw this position in game number 1, where Benched were very slightly ahead, but then Heimerdingers Collosi found their stride, they found the momentum they needed, and pretty much just snowballed the game out from this kind of point. So Bench have to be very, very careful that they don't end up succumbing to that kind of switch in momentum. And in the last game, they had a very fed Kha'Zix, who's one of the champions you would like to have those kills going into the mid-game. This time, 2 on Varus and 1 on Jace are going to be good, but it's not the same kind of carry for the next 10 or so minutes that they really would like to fight off.
Yeah, it's a good point that you make, that, you know, a carbon copy of last game, we're in a very similar situation. Hold that thought for a second. Jarvan is going to come towards mid once again. Maluno being that ever-present jungler. And, you know, Broken Shard has told us time and time again that Jarvan is just OP. Flat out OP right now. And you can sense it in the waters here that Maluno wants to make a play happen at bot lane. Having said it though, Jace is going to be difficult. He has turned back round though, so Yamato kind of doing a nice job of baiting in. The flag and drag narrowly missing there on towards YoloZilla. But the difference between this game and last game is that the Draven Pain Train was just starting to warm up, and it was starting to do loads of damage. This time around, Freeze has not had the same kind of game. He's been back at his tower time and time again, trying to just feed off the scraps of any CS that managed to get through to his tower, and Varus is really having everything his own way at this point, 2-1. Caitlyn has not picked up a single kill, and is 25 CS behind.
Yeah, Freeze has to kind of find his footing in this game. There's a nice cocoon coming out from Mythi, but Gornagal is there. There's the dredge line. Actually crossed hooks there. Freeze trying to land as much damage out. The box is down. Teleport in from Yamato Cannon. Can they turn this one around? Do they have Unstoppable Force available? It is, but it looked like Yamato Cannon was stuck in place. I believe the depth charge was on him. There's the Unstoppable Force onto Gornagal. That's going to be a double kill there for Extinct. Are they going to look to chase a triple or just go down towards their blue buff? He is chasing on towards Ari. Bimbo trying to get on there, not quite able to land the damage. Extinct towards the bush, sits in it, waits for Bimbo to face check. There's the Rift Walk away with Nadius appearing.
That is the mark of a great team, that even though Heimerdingers Colossi were looking dead and buried in that engage, suddenly out of nowhere, just cavalry comes out the woodwork. Malphite using his teleport to get up towards top lane, and then you also have the Kassadin moving very briskly as well. So let's have a quick look at how Varus is stacking up against Caitlyn. Caitlyn's very low once again, but does actually have well, I was about to say a level lead. Is getting so heavily harassed, but here comes from the backside, the Kassadin and Jarvan, and that's going to be a kill to Kassadin. So now moved to 4-1 stress, and he's just going to get stronger from this point on. He's not a character you want to feed kills to.
There was something that happened down in the bottom lane, though, that is fairly important right now. You can see that there's no tower down in the bottom lane as Mithy actually gets engaged upon in the mid lane. All the time as Freeze, once again, Gornagal going for this. Is he going to be able to get it? Does land that last auto attack and will pick it up. So that's another kill in favor of Bench Gaming, but it is tied even now. The 1,000 gold lead is from that tower down in the bottom lane. When Malphite teleported out of lane, Jace stayed in lane, managed to chunk through it, and Extinct gets taken down very low as I'm trying to talk about this tower in the bottom lane. Jace does pick up that kill onto Extinct and picks up the shutdown gold from himself. So that's an important exchange of gold there as 500 went over to Mozilla. Mozilla did take down that turret. I will get that out eventually. And you can see, even though he's not put really all that many points into that, I believe it's called hypercharge on the Jace, is his W, did take down that tower very, very quickly, so made sure that they punished the teleport out by Malphite. Now they're going to take Dragon.
Yeah, so Heimerdingers Collosi are going to trade a mid tower for the Drake, so the gold difference stays around the same. Maluno in this corner, he has been charmed from Ahri and death sentenced as well. Need to be careful. Unstoppable Force has just came up, will be used on towards Nardius. Here comes Kassadin. He's very fed, he's very scary, doing a lot of damage to Nardius. Will take him down. A 2 versus 3 situation though. Malphite is tanky as hell, but he is going to be falling. There we go, double kill from Ahri, who goes through the wall from blue buff. I believe the flash was burnt, a Spirit Rush had already been used. Indeed it was, but they are going to pick up the blue buff. So that was a 2-for-1 exchange and a mid tower for a Drake. So you have to say Bench Gaming come out narrowly ahead in that exchange.
Yeah, now that my brain has started to put words together after getting a little bit disjointed about talking about that tower, you could see the Rift Walk over to try and snipe out Nardius, and he got him down very, very quickly. As you said, has so much damage right now, has that Rod of Ages finished, now stacking that tier as well. And Extinct just removed Nardius from the fight. He knew that was the most important person to get rid of, trying to shut them down as much as possible. And all of this action around the map has actually given Caitlyn the ability to catch up in CS. She may be 3 kills down, but now she's not so uncomfortable in the fact that she was earlier about 30 CS behind. So a good job of catching up there by Caitlyn. Has that Bloodthirster finished. Varus does have the Blade of the Ruined King, so that's going to be doing a significant amount of damage and make it a little bit easier to take those global objectives. But as this goes on and Kassadin starts getting in towards that backline, Varus is going to become less and less of a problem for Heimerdingers Collosi.
True, and the Blade of the Ruined King as well. I'm keeping an eye at top lane because Maluno is snaking his way around the side with Freeze. So we could have the Flag and Drag plus the Cataclysm. That is exactly what happens. Varus, his flash is down. He has no escape. He's going to have to stand here, fight to the very end. Can he pick up a kill? The barriers came out as well. He changes the focus right at the death there and then falls to Freeze. So Freeze does have a kill on the board. I was about to have a look at the gold difference between the two. It was 1k, and now it's back towards about 700 difference. You do have the engage here from Nautilus though. In the meanwhile, on mid lane, Extinct goes down, caught with his pants down around his ankles, and they're now going to be pulling themselves towards the mid tower. This is a 3 against 4 situation, but Malphite's very tanky. Elise is deceptively strong. They are going to be jumping back in here in the form of Jace. Jace is pushing back Yamato Cannon from the back. Here comes Jarvan though. Freeze is just popping players down from the backside, but Ahri will claim the kill on towards Malphite. Very tanky, but doesn't last very long. Elise back onto Nautilus. Double kill for Ahri, but 3 very, very low players. Pilt of a Peacemaker does connect onto Jace. Here comes Jace in the hole. Takes down Ahri, who tries to be good guy, and instead actually sacrifices himself for the support. So not worth it in that case. You should have just let your support die.
Good guy mid laner sacrifices himself for the low health support. Yeah. And Freeze has now found himself in a position where he's a lot more comfortable. That fight looked like it was going well in the favor of benched gaming, but Freeze swings around the back, manages to land a lot of damage, and that all started with that death sentence onto Extinct. And now, normally that wouldn't be too much to deal with for a Kassadin. You just Rift walk away, but people underestimate the amount of CC that comes out from Nautilus. Dredgeline came in as well, I believe, then landed the staggering blows, which is actually, it sounds quite a small thing, but 0.75 second immobilize is actually fairly big when you're only on a quarter of your health. If you can't Rift walk away immediately, it's pretty much spells the end for a Kassadin. So much CC coming out from the team of Bench Gaming there. They were able to initiate that, but as I said, Freeze kind of came around and turned what was a 0-1 Caitlyn just 2 minutes ago now 3-1 and 4 and ahead in CS.
Yeah, I mean, we would... Oh, one sec. We do have Jason Kassadin fighting a bot lane. Yolazilla actually pushing him away with the E, but will Extinct go in for seconds? The answer is a no. Malphite's recalling from top lane, going to be trying to fill in the gaps in the defense here in mid. The tower is pretty low, just 800 HP remaining. Will go down quickly. Charm lands onto Jarvan, not exactly the ideal recipient, but they are going to do enough here. Actually going to pop the ace in the hole onto Bimbo again. And we are going to have an engage from Elise, flashing and repelling, I believe that was, and managing to land it down, but she's going very low. Will actually drop her trouble, so the flash and engage wasn't worth it in the short term. Will it be worth it in the long term, though, as Jarvan goes on towards Varus, now going to be jumping behind the tower, taking down Nautilus will Caitlyn. So had a very dodgy early game, but now 4-1. With 5 assists, looking far superior to Varus, who's moved to 3-5. Just goes to show how important the team aspect is in League of Legends. And now Caitlyn's looking extremely scary. So yeah, maybe that sacrifice, good guy Ari, good guy Bimbo, wasn't necessarily the greatest of ideas.
Yeah, and Freeze is, although has that Bloodthirster finish, is at a very similar to position item-wise as she was earlier. If you check the gold, though, she's carrying 3,000, which at 21 minutes into the game, considering she's already got a Bloodthirster and double Doran's Ring, that's either going a long way towards an Infinity Edge, or it's going to finish up those boots into Berserker's Greaves, and then something like one of the items that builds out of his Zeal. We'll see exactly what she picks up. No, I'm completely wrong. It's Berserker's Greaves and a Last Whisper as Extinct and YOLOzilla are trading in the bot lane. Extinct does pick up that kill for himself, although it was a very close trade as well. I'm completely wrong. Apparently, attack speed, not quite that useful anymore, according to Freeze.
Well, they are going to be starting off onto Drake here, our Benched Gaming. Going to try and hold off the onslaught that has been pounding them for the last couple of minutes. You do have a teleport coming in from Malphite. Drake has already fallen though. Will they be taking down the engage? Nice box from Thresh, locking out 2 or 3 of the players from the opposition. Now going to be looking to jump on towards Bimbo. Nice charm there actually, onto Freeze, but the Cataclysm has been popped. Spirit Rush and the Chain of Corruption whiffs. Oh my god, Bimbo is so low at this point with the ace in the hole landing, about 30 HP remaining after that. So nobody actually falls in this skirmish, and it was a Drake forcing out a myriad of ultimates, and also the teleport from Malphite at top. So Drake, for lots and lots of opposition spells burnt, has to be another minor win for Bench Gaming here.
Yeah, although I think Nadius isn't going to be all that impressed by that team fight. You could see on the screen, he kind of positioned himself in the Dragon Pit so that he could fight whoever came at him. Unfortunately for him, it was a Malphite that started coming towards him, and anybody else I think he'd be fine with, but that Blade of the Rune King and the pickaxe, not quite doing as much damage as he'd like, so I ended up having to take a Thresh Lantern all the way out the back of the fight, so there wasn't really that much damage from Benched right there. With a better engage, I think you might see them do even better in a team fight, but I think Nadius is regretting getting to 3 and 5 and letting the rest of Heimerdingers Collosi getting quite to the position they're at right now.
So the last time I was talking about the gold discrepancy between the two AD carries, I believe it was 700 in favour of Nadius. Having a second glimpse, it's gone from 700 in favour of Nadius to 1.3k in favour of Freeze. So in the last 5 or so minutes, Freeze has really started to shift through the gears, now looking very, very scary. You have Varus with a Blade of the Ruined King and building towards an Infinity Edge against a Caitlyn with a Bloodthirster Last Whisper and 1.6k in her back pocket. Massive, massive turnaround here. And Freeze, at this point in the game, is going to do a lot of damage. Just picked up a BF Sword.
Yeah, and she just dumped 3,000 into that Last Whisper and the Berserker's Greaves. So the fact that she was already back on 1,600 is a crazy, crazy amount of gold in the last couple of minutes. And as you said, really stepping up the pace from that AD carry position. There is somewhat of a little lull in the game now. We're seeing that Heimerdingers Collosi just playing through the paces. They've sent down Kassadin to that bottom lane. Does have that Rift Walk to cross the map fairly quickly, but not really comparative to the teleport they'd like to use out of Malphite. I would expect to see, as this game goes on, see Malphite being the one doing the split pushing. But meanwhile, they're going to make do with what they've got with their fast mobility on that Kassadin. They're going on towards Dirtgen. The Cataclysm has been used here. Bimbo tries to catch on with the charm, but that wall from the Cataclysm isn't going to pull him any much closer. Dirtgen does fall. Now they're on the run. Will Yamato kind of look for the unstoppable force over the wall? No, they won't. They're actually going to go in. A Freeze is going to go unstoppable, picking up a kill onto Jace. Are they going to be able to push on towards his turret? There comes the unstoppable force. You on towards Bilbo. They're going to... Sorry, Bimbo. Man, I haven't even watched Lord of the Rings recently. Catching on towards Bimbo with that unstoppable force. And they're going to take him down. And that's going to allow them to take out the Baron.
Bimbo Baggins, OP, yo. You heard it here first. Now going to be pushing on towards the Baron, but really just clearing out wards more than anything else. You do have an Oracles on Mithy, so we are going to have kind of Kassadin just popping down a bit of pain on towards Nautilus, but nothing to write home about. There is a ward in the bush, not for long though. Again, the Oracles paying dividends. Going to be pulling themselves back towards Baron. They know there's no ward coverage down here. They know that Jace is still back at spawn. Are they going to try and force a Baron and catch bench gaming out? The answer is a resounding no. You can see a multitude of players, namely Jarvan and also Elise, recalling alongside the Extinct on Kassadin. So going back to pick up some more items. Another Oracles has been finished off onto Elise. And you do have a Zhonya's Hourglass onto Kassadin. So that is just a bit more pain, and it's going to make him much more slippery to catch here from Bench Gaming's perspective.
Yeah, and Bench are going on the aggressive now. They've got a lot of poke damage out of that Jace. Does have that Muramana Last Whisper and a Vamp Scepter as well. And I'm trying to compose myself. Bass is already saying that he's going to be photoshopping pictures of Bilbo's face onto Bimbo, and I'm trying to compose myself after clearly showing my love for Lord of the Rings just a little too much here. But Extinct trying to find an angle around the back, but Gornagal is trying to just, guard that side flank. There is the Rift Walk, and he's going to land a little chunk of damage on towards him, and that's going to be enough for Gornagal to turn away. But again, Extinct dropping down to that bottom lane, going to try and push through as much as possible. Malphite's teleport is nearly available, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him go across the map as well. But it looks like they're all trying to congregate around that top area just to make sure that they don't give away any kind of Baron control right now.
So Varus is trying his best to catch up Caitlyn again. He still hasn't managed to finish off his Infinity Edge. Let's have a quick look at his gold. He has 1.5, nearly 1.6k, so he could finish that off when he recalls if he so chooses. Moving back to the tower because, Kassadin's not showing up. You do have a teleport at the top lane, though, here from Malphite, so are they trying to make something happen? You can see that Baron has a couple wards placed down on it. Kassadin is going to be jumping on towards Nadia's Chain of Corruption. Beautiful Rift Walk, though, from Extinct. Actually, Rift Walking through the Chains of Corruption. So that's a new one I haven't seen too often. And now he's going to be trying to push down the tower here at bot lane. Meanwhile, though, Bench Gaming are trying to answer the call by pushing the mid lane themselves. That tower's been low for a long time, still hasn't fallen. Jace is going to try his best to patch the bot lane up. But yeah, Extinct with Rift Walk, very, very difficult to catch, and he should be fine just popping himself away.
Yeah, Extinct would have liked to have thought about fighting it, but he just used his Zhonya's Hourglass in the trade against Nadius, and he pretty much finds himself caught out, but he is going to fight it. Goes up and pretty much just fights YOLOzilla 1v1. Not really too much to do about that, but they have de-warded the Baron area, and that really calls for the Baron attempt here. Now 3 going in towards it. Sorry, it's 4. I can't count. I've forgotten how to do maths. And Mithy taken very low off that. Nadius does take down that kill, and Subtle Force out through the front. Maluno is trying to run away as much as possible, but Freeze on the back foot, no mana as well. Forced to flash out is Yamato Cannon. There's the box catching on towards Maluno. Was trying to re-engage this. Can they land any damage now? Because otherwise this leaves Benched in a very good position. But here comes Extinct with that mobility. Yamato Cannon is back, gets that ground slam. It's going to movement speed debuff most of the team. Double kill out now for Extinct. Can they pick up a triple? That's a double kill for Freeze as well. 2 double kills, and are they really angling towards? No, they're going to go straight past the opening. I thought they were maybe going to try a very bold play, but they don't have all that much health.
So smart there from Heimerdingers Collosi, because they knew the Kassadin was low at bot lane. They were just trying to bait Benched Gaming up long enough that Kassadin could get into position. So it was very close. Everyone was flashing up red. A couple of flashes were used there from Heimerdingers Collosi in the form of Malphite and Jarvan, but they managed to keep Benched Gaming interested for long enough to allow Kassadin to come in and basically just clean house. So 14 to 22, 5.1k gold advantage in the favor of Heimerdingers Collosi, and they're going to be picking up this completely free Drake. So the woes for Bench Gaming continue, have an Infinity Edge finished off onto Caitlyn. So 3 core items at this point for her, and Varus has just managed to finish off his Infinity Edge and buy a Negatron Cloak, which of course is completely going against Kassadin. Would be too surprised if that builds into a Banshee's Veil, to be completely honest. It would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Benched Gaming, Heimerdingers Colossi are just finding their stride again, and that's really the dangerous part. I mean, they shut them down as best as they could early on, but it's just not been enough. And you can see Gornagal trying to just force the issue here and gets caught out. Maluno is going to pick that one up. Taunt is going to land on towards Mithy, but without Nautilus, that's a lot of their CC gone. I mean, they do still have Thresh, but Ace in the Hole is going to come out. Actually hit Nadius as well, so that's exactly who they would be looking for with that. And they've forced Benched Gaming all the way back, and now they're going to take control of this top area around Baron, and whether they'll start it or not is another issue, because I've said that they're going to start it a couple of times, but they do start the engage onto Baron.
Makes a lot of sense. They know Nautilus is down in the Death Chamber for the next 7 seconds. He of course holds his team's smite, and also additionally on top of that they have no tank. Kassadin just hiding in the bush, waiting for something to happen. The shot blast comes in. Caitlyn, of all players, actually takes that one down. Kassadin jumping in. Chain of Corruption as well. Here comes Maluno, though, on Jarvan. Look at Ari disintegrate from Kassadin. Lasted all of 0.5 seconds. Now going to be switching focus on towards Dirtgen. You do have a double kill there. Beautiful Rift Walk actually going through the dredge line of Nautilus. Going to be unstoppable, forcing into Varus, who dies in a heartbeat. The GG well played are coming out once again. And Kassadin is just massive. Has the lead score, 13 kills, 3 assists, 3 deaths I should say, and 7 assists. So that was just ridiculous stress. Again, Benched looked pretty strong early on, but after the laning phase it just crumbled.
Yeah, I think this is something that we're going to see characteristic of Heimerdingers Colossi. They kind of start out testing the waters just a little bit, then they hit that point where they're all just playing in complete sync, and everything just kind of goes their way. The flow of the game is controlled by them, and they can just take down any objective they want, then take a big fight and pretty much force Bench to GG out of that game. Both games were a surrender. This one was a little bit longer. It was probably about 7 minutes longer, if I can remember exactly how long the first game was. But yeah, Heimerdingers Colossi just looking pretty strong in that mid game.
I mean, even Mithy, who had a really dodgy start, died twice in lane, was a level or 2 behind the Thresh, finishes on 4 kills, 5 deaths, and 5 assists. So it just goes to show they were spreading the love out all over the map there. Malphite didn't manage to get any kills, but his engages were pixel perfect throughout. And I do feel really sorry for Nadius and also Dirtgen there, because they had such a good laning phase. They forced teleports from Malphite, they forced Maluno to camp their lane, and even Extinct was getting in the action from Kassadin from mid lane. So they were getting focus from pretty much every lane on the map, and they still managed to come out of laning phase pretty strong. So fairly devastated for them. They put on a really good show.
Yeah, it was, you know, I mean, I kind of want to say that Benched don't really deserve the result of 2-0. I mean, as we said, the start of the games were very comparative between the two games, and just they let they let Heimerdingers Collosi just get to a point where they could just run with it. And unfortunately, benched to going out of the EUS Challenger Series number 4 already, and it's only round number 1. Not exactly something that, from the last couple of weeks, if you told us going into it, would be the problem, but when you see the players they were up against, they were definitely on very, very high caliber. And I think we're going to go to a break, and then we'll update guys on what's going to be happening here on the Challenger Series number 4. We are going to have another set of games today. There's going to be another best of 3 that is going to be between, I want to say it's Absolute Legends and TCM. Yep. Hopefully I am getting that right. That is the case. I'll get an update on exactly when that game will be starting, but we'll be back with you in just a little bit here for the EUS Challenger Series number 4, hosted by Kaostv.
Like a bomb squad.